Hi everyone, and welcome back to Meet the Mission, the podcast where we spotlight the bold thinkers, the battlefield innovators, and the quiet tech powerhouses defending our digital and physical worlds. I'm your host, Candice Scarborough, a technical director at Parsons, a cybersecurity strategist, and a part-time chaos coordinator for all things mission critical. And today's episode is for anyone who's ever wondered, how do you bring mission-grade cybersecurity to the very edge of the fight? Joining me today are two phenomenal guests from SealingTech, now a part of the Parsons family. First up is Brad Hatcher, Chief Product Officer, who has spent years designing field-ready cybersecurity platforms for military, federal, and commercial missions. He's the Swiss Army knife of cyber product strategy. And we've also got Andreas Giraldo, Director of Innovation and a veteran technologist who's helped scale SealingTech's most advanced kits and capabilities for the real-world high-stake deployments around the globe. Welcome to both of you, and so glad to have you here. So let's get into it. First up, like I said, I like to showcase the broad space of where Parsons operates. So I want to know, where are both of you located?
I'll start off. We happen to
Okay.
be like 5 offices away from each other at the SealingTech headquarters in
Absolutely.
Columbia, Maryland.
Absolutely. And you're both there.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I love that. I'm around the corner. So yes, one big happy family here. And then I try to let some people, the audience know a little bit more about you as, people before we get into the very techie engineering side of things. So icebreaker questions are up first. I'll start with you, Brad, and then we'll go to you, Andres. What's your go-to cybersecurity movie or show, and what part of it made you yell at the screen?
So for me, there are many over the years, but I think I'll pick a more recent one, and it's a show, and I'm going to go with Mr. Robot. I would suspect that many of your listeners and watchers have seen it. In general, I think they did a great job, but like many things, I think the part that make you yell at the screen is, they'll hack into the most well-guarded, protected bank in 45 seconds of keyboard strokes and just make it look easy, like anybody can do it. And you're just like, oh, that's just not how it happens at all.
Right. And it's going to take you months of preparation and months of failures, and it's just not that smooth. Absolutely. I used to love that show, and shout out to Rami Malek because I think he's amazing. So what about you, Andres? What is your favorite movie or show, and what part of it made you want to yell at the screen?
It's funny. We didn't actually we didn't plan for this, but my answer is the exact same thing here. It's Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
And it's funny, some of the techniques are just, they're like cringe, and you're like, that's not really how it works. It's not that easy. But it's a really good show. And I think some of the attacks that they do in cyber attacks, they are relevant. They're just not as easy as they're shown. And you don't plan a cyber attack in 24 hours and
Correct.
into, as Brad said, some of these heavily guarded buildings. So it's just, some of the techniques are cringe, but it was still a great show. I'd still watch it all over again. So
Yeah, absolutely correct. I love it. And I think that's probably the best choice. I think it's very representative of the world that I operate into as well, being on the cybersecurity, national security operations sides of things. It's like, yeah, that'll never happen, but it's cute and it makes for interesting TV. So
yes, absolutely.
good choice. All right. So next icebreaker question. What's a piece of advice you once got in the field that you still use? And it can be tech or otherwise. It doesn't have to be tech. I'll start with you, Andres.
Sure. For me, working in product development early on in here at SealingTech, so I've been here for about 7 years, and the previous CEO and founder of SealingTech. So working in product development, you're constantly trying different things. And I remember telling him, like, hey, I'm probably going to break some of these systems. And his response back was like, if you're in product development and you're not breaking stuff, you're not doing it right. So he was like, try not to break things. Don't break things on purpose. But we should always be failing forward and like learning from all those failures and rapidly failing so that we can build amazing solutions. And that's really stuck with me over the past 7 years where, I always have that mindset of like, I'm going to fail fast, learn from that failure, and build the next cool thing, learning from that. So I'm never afraid to break anything within limits, but I feel like it's worked out well for myself and my team.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. And it's definitely good for, people that are more junior in their career who are super afraid of missteps, taking even the wrong job, taking the wrong role, volunteering for things that are kind of outside your comfort zone. It's like, yeah, fail fast, learn what you like, learn what lessons you can pull from these opportunities and just move forward. I think that's something that we should instill in our more junior folks. I mean, everybody can learn from that, but definitely targeting, the junior folks and like failure is how you grow. So I love that.
It's something I tell all of the new interns and new employees. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Yep.
So yeah.
I love that. Awesome. Okay, what about you? What's a piece of advice that you've once gotten that you still use to this day, Brad?
Yeah, so mine's a big one for me, and it's more on the being a good teammate and being a good leader side of the house. And it's going to sound controversial, but it's not meant to be, but it's pronouns matter. But in this case, it's singular versus plural pronouns. So it's very important to use we and us when we're working on things and we're solving problems and we had accomplishments. And I try very hard to only use singular pronouns, I, if it's accepting responsibility for something that didn't go well, if I was the ultimate leader in charge of that. So it's one that I learned kind of the hard way a couple of times in my career, where just you end up irritating some of your teammates, the people you depend on, because of poor selection of your pronoun in the moment. You don't really mean to do it, but it really goes a long way when you're saying we and us when we did something. And I think that's an important one for everybody.
Yeah. And that's really insightful. I think it's one of those things where sometimes it requires you to retrain your brain, and this is collective and we're all buying into the path that we're moving down. So it's not, even if it was necessarily your idea and people are buying into it, now it's become we, right? And at that point, we are the people that are going to move this forward, and we're going to accept whatever comes back from that collectively as a group. So I think that's really insightful. Awesome. So now that we've had a chance to hear the lighter side of the mission, it's time to get into more of the substance. For those who may not be familiar with SealingTech's legacy in national cybersecurity, let's start with some context. So what's the story behind the company? How did you become a leader in cyber operations at the tactical edge? And just how have you built a reputation as a go-to partner for national cyber defense? So very big question. Try to narrow it down for me to what you think is kind of relevant of the historical context. And whoever wants to start.
Yeah, so I'll kick us off with a little bit of the timeline of the history and probably turn it over to Andres for a little bit more of the detail. I've only been with SealingTech since December, so 6 months. Andres has been here quite a bit longer and kind of was part of the team as they were growing and building. But back in 2012, Ed Sealing founded the company. And when they started, like a lot of DoD contracting companies, they were more a services company, providing labor to help out with whatever was necessary. At the time, it was doing a lot of testing for JCHK, which is part of DISA. They did that kind of work for several years, and then they got an opportunity to get into the integration space. So they were, pulling in parts from the person who had hired them and, assembling them and then sending them out to where they needed to go, but not really doing any design work. It was just mostly like server level integration and sending it out. Then an opportunity came along to actually start developing and building cyber hunt kits. And so that was in around 2018. And once SealingTech got into that kind of lane, it's proven a very successful lane for us. And we've really found a niche where we can help our customers, primarily in the DoD, fill a critical need that no one was really filling at that time by packaging this equipment into a form factor that's small and can fit on an airplane in an overhead bin. And that's kind of big picture, the progression of where we started back in 2012 until today.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I can add a little bit to that there. As Brad mentioned, our work at JCHK, right, with DISA, we learned a lot about supporting cyber defenders. And we saw this need for like networks were getting larger, and we just saw a need we needed to have scalable architectures that could scale up and down as network surges spiked. We needed to have the tools to be able to analyze that traffic. So it's funny, we actually started building a software platform in 2018. It was using Kubernetes, containers, and all of these cloud native technologies that in 2018 were pretty new, at least relatively new in the DoD world. And we needed to show this to our customers. So we built we kind of put together these small servers, and we wanted them as light as possible because we were going to go show them to our customers on different bases. And when we showed up with this, we showed our Kubernetes cluster and how we could scale DCO solutions up and down. And they said, hey, we really love this hardware that you put together. Kubernetes containers, that's way too new for our workforce right now, for the soldiers. So they told us, can you build us these cyber flyaway kits, put together software, put it into the small carry-on compliant systems? And really that was the start of it in 2018, the start into this flyaway kit that has been really successful for us over the past 7 years.
And we will get more in depth into the flyaway kits because there's so many people. It's so interesting about this episode. It's had like a lot of interest. So I've fielded more questions from folks externally than I have in any of our other episodes. So we have a whole section to kind of delve deep into the flyaway kits. And I just want to learn a little bit more about, SealingTech's legacy before we pivot into the techie part. So one thing that I find is very interesting is your team's background, especially with military and veteran experience. How do you feel that the background from your team, like what you bring to the table, has shaped how you build and deliver solutions? And you meaning the we of SealingTech, right?
Yeah, so I myself am a Navy veteran. I did almost 21 years of service. My career bounced from operating reactors on aircraft carriers to doing cybersecurity. I did a bunch of different stuff. But we also have a workforce that's about 22% veterans. And since one of our largest customers is the DoD, that perspective that we've been there and we've done those missions and we've felt the pain points of not having exactly what we needed and are looking for vendors or contractors to come in and support, like living through that really goes a long way in making sure that we recognize and can quickly meet the needs of our customers. And it's, I think, a very important part of our success.
And so anything that you feel might be slightly different compared to other vendors, right? So we have other vendors that have, some legacy experience in this space. Do you think SealingTech approaches anything slightly differently than our other traditional cyber vendors?
I have my thoughts. I will let Andres chime in first because I bet we're going to say the same thing.
Sure. I think a big part of that is just we really, truly at our core, we try to understand the customer's pain points and then rapidly, like we are so agile and rapidly build prototypes to then solve those pain points. And when you can do that, like it provides mission success, it makes everyone happy. And I think that's something that we've seen differentiate us. And we've actually heard that end feedback from customers where they'll tell us, we gave this idea to 10 different vendors. You were the only one to take it serious. You are the only one to come back with a prototype. And I think that's been a huge differentiator for us, is rapid innovation and just agility to move that fast.
Anything else to add to that, Brad? Because I'm going to piggyback on what Andres just said, but before I go there, anything you wanted to add?
Not so much add, but to just stress is that, there have been times that we have customer needs or issues and we turn around in weeks to, maybe a month or two and come back with a prototype and then can get it into production a few weeks later. And what we've heard time after time is that, though with really large companies and really large vendors, there are some benefits that come with it. They also have processes that take longer and they just can't do that kind of innovation at speed that's been key to, what we can provide our customers. And the agility of us as, a smaller company has just worked in our favor and in our customers' favor.
So to add to that, and this leads us right into this follow-on question, right? Parsons is a large company. So what are the benefits, right, that have fueled your pace of innovation and reach since joining Parsons?
I think the simplest way to say it is support and just asking us what can be done to help wherever we need it. So whether it's, going after JCHK, which I'm sure we'll be talking about a lot later in the podcast, or just anything, it's been this, what can we do to help you succeed? And, we like to think that we are finding this great fusion of us still being, independently operated and our, smaller, quick processes, but the support and the resources of a large company like Parsons, when you bring those together, it's just been a force multiplier and helped make us even better.
Absolutely. Were you going to say something, Andres?
Sure. Yeah. I think from my point of view, what I've seen is it's just the amount of resources and subject matter expertise available. Like there's been so many examples just in the past 6-9 months where it's any area of technology that we've needed just assistance or additional support or just somebody to ask a question to, whether it's like electrical, mechanical, RF, additive manufacturing. Parsons has it all, and they very quickly provide us that support. So as Brad said, it's a force multiplier. It's really the combination of the two has really helped us out. I mean, we've it's only enhanced our agility in a lot of ways, where Parsons will quickly 3D print parts for us that we need in our systems. That's moving our agility forward, and just the overall sharing of knowledge. I'm still every day impressed with the amount of subject matter experts that Parsons has, and I'm sure I'll continue to be amazed by that.
Absolutely. I'm amazed every day too, as well, when I reach across the company and talk to folks. And I've been at a lot of conferences over the last year or so, and just being introduced to all these innovations across the space, I'm amazed all the time as well. So that's really cool. All right, so now we're going to get to the part where everybody's here for, right? To discuss more about the cyber flyaway kits. So it's obvious, it's very clear that, the mission-driven origin of, your history and your story is a big part of how the cyber flyaway kits were developed. And these kits have become a trusted resource for teams operating in some of the most demanding environments. So I just want to spend some time and take a deeper look at what makes them so effective and so essential. So first question, can someone break it down for us? What's in the kit and why is it such a game changer?
I can start there. So our kits that we provide, we often call them cyber flyaway kits. They support cyber protection teams that deploy to missions worldwide. And these teams, they need the compute resources to analyze networks and look for malicious actors, bad traffic, just really look for compromised networks or perform some sort of incident response. Oftentimes they have to travel with their equipment, with sensitive data, and they need to be able to bring this equipment and bring it with them where they can maintain positive control. So they don't want to have to check in their equipment and have it go in the cargo hold of a plane where they no longer have positive control of potentially sensitive information. As these networks are getting larger, there's a lot of compute resources required. So really a flyaway kit is all of the compute resources so that you would typically see in a data center. We pack that all into a small carry-on compliant case or cases, along with all of the other accessories that a team might need, like network taps, firewalls, switches. And then we package on top of that all of the software that a team would need to perform their defensive cyber operation mission. So it's everything that they need to perform this when they're on site and they don't have the resources of a data center or the resources of their base, and they have to be able to be anywhere in the world operating from within this flyaway kit.
Absolutely. Anything that you wanted to add to that, Brad? Because I have a follow-up question. I'll make sure.
Not so much from the point of view of what's in the kit. I think Andres did a great job of explaining that. A little bit more about why it's important for whether it's a cyber protection team or an incident response team is a term you might hear more on the commercial side, but they basically do the same thing. Why it's important that they come with their own equipment. if you've got the suspicion that bad guys have got onto your network and have got control of it or doing things on it you don't want them to do, then you can't trust any part of that network. So if you're going to bring in the good guys, the SWAT team, to come and figure out what's going on and get the bad guys off the network, it is critical that they have their own equipment that they know is good, that they were the ones who very recently reconfigured everything and built it from the ground up on the software side. Provisioning, we call that, and shows up with stuff that they know is good, that they can trust, so that they can then get information, connect it. And Andres mentioned a network tap. That's just how you connect the other network into the kit. And then you're looking at the traffic that's going through, and you're you're analyzing that traffic and figuring out what's going on, and then working the plan to isolate the bad guy, get him off the network, get the network rebuilt to a known good state. But it is so important that you have your own equipment that you can trust, that you take on that mission, and there's no other way to do it than to bring it with you.
Right. And that makes a ton of sense, right? Something that is, the ground truth of it, and exactly what to expect. And then there's less risk, right, associated with doing that operation and understanding what the network looks like. So it makes total sense. So can either of you share a memorable or an extreme use case where these kits have made a difference? And I'll start with you, Brad. Do you have one?
I was going to say, so I've got a lot of direct history, and I'm going to say in kits in general, because this was a little bit before SealingTech was making kits and selling them to the DoD. But one of my jobs when I was still active duty, I worked at Joint Force Headquarters Doden. They're a subcomponent of Cyber Command. And I actually command and controlled, which means for the non-military out there, I gave tasking and orders to 6 of these cyber protection teams that would go out and use not our kits at the time, but similar things and kind of hodgepodge things to do real world missions. And I can't talk about the details of some of those missions, but I saw 5 or 6 times a year where equipment similar to ours was used to go in and figure out something bad on a network and get that network to a known good state. It was shortly after I left that job that SealingTech started to build kits and sell them to the same services of the teams that I used to manage. And we've gotten the feedback. And again, I lived the pain before SealingTech was making these products, but the need for this and having that capability is just critical to any organization, to include the Department of Defense, keeping their network safe.
Makes total sense. What about you, Andres? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Andres might have a more particular individual story to tell.
So I don't have one that I can share like in a specific example, but oftentimes whenever I see articles posted by the Cyber Mission Force and they're saying Cyber Mission Force went to country XYZ, publicly available on one of their press releases, I always know in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's our kits supporting those missions. They're using our flyaway kits and the equipment that we help put together on those missions. So then I know it's a rewarding feeling to know like we are supporting the warfighter, even though we're not directly called out on that. Absolutely.
And so the last question that I'll ask before we go into a little bit more discussions, I do want to round out some of the discussion on the Joint Cyber Hunt Kit, milestone. But I'm sure it's pretty challenging. How do you balance scalability, speed, and security in more of these mobile formats? How do you go about thinking about innovating in that space? And what are some things that you guys, I guess, center your principles around and architecture around to make sure that you are scalable at speed and secure?
I think the easiest way to say that is, in some sense, we leave that to our customer, meaning that we make our kits very modular and very scalable, and they can pick and choose from the components in their kits what they need on individual missions. Andres talked a little bit about the individual components of kits, but some kits are really big and might be 5 or 6 of those cases and several backpacks with switches and stuff in them. And that might be the whole kit that we sold to a particular customer. But when CPTs go out on mission, it's usually not the whole 39-man team, it's smaller mission elements, and they'll take what they need for the particular mission they're doing. And we build a kit that if it's like, World War III in cyber and like they need everything they got, get it on the plane and get it out there to deal with it, they can take a full kit or multiple kits. But the day to day, the reality is a lot of the missions they go to do only take 5 or 6 people, and they might take a third of the kit. And again, we've designed it to be modular, scalable, then pick and choose the components they need, the software loadout they need, and really it's all about flexibility so our customers can buy a thing but use it in a variety of ways.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, I'll add to that. It's exactly that. It's the way we design our systems, our kits. They're modular. They're meant to scale in up and down different mission environments, different mission sizes. And throughout our product development process, we are implementing security features, whether that's things like supply chain risk management of hardware components or the software that we put on the kit. We're hardening that software. We're applying like STIG baselines and all of the good security stuff. We put that in from the beginning and then offer it to where now they can choose. They might not use all of the software. They might use a subset of it, but the scalability really depends on the end user, the customer. So we design it with that in mind.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to delve a little bit, pulling on the foundation of the cyber flyaway kit, right? In March of this year, SealingTech was awarded a DIU contract to build the Joint Cyber Hunt Kit prototype. How did that achievement come about? And can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I'm going to defer to Andres because he's actually been on the team kind of dealing with it more closely than me. So he can give more details and I'll follow up with any aspects that I want to highlight.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sure thing. We've been providing kits to all of the branches over the past 7 years or so to the different branches, different services, different groups, and really there was a need to consolidate that and really enhance interoperability between the branches, between the services. So JCHK came about, and really it was something that our team of experts, prior CPTs, our engineers, we've been working this for over the past year, helping support the standardization of the kit that the cyber mission forces will use. They wanted the next generation kit that included a lot of innovation, more agility, more modularity to their kit. And that's something that we're excited to deliver really soon to the customer.
Awesome. So, when you say, and I'm just going to pull on that thread a little bit, are you able to share kind of what they pictured as like the next generation innovations and needs for their kit? Is there anything you can share there? Because I know sometimes that's sensitive.
Sure. I think a lot of what was requested is networks are getting larger and larger. Attacks are becoming more complex, right? So bad actors they're using living off the land techniques. The attack vectors are becoming more complex. So it was, how can we build innovation into the kit to meet that increasing demand? So that's, more CPU, more storage. We're building kits, like flyaway kits with over a petabyte of storage, which still amazes me to think about. Like I have flown with systems that have over a petabyte of storage right in the overhead of a plane. We're pushing 100 gigabits per second network speeds. And then it's all of the software innovations combined with that to how can the tech living off the land techniques, how can we implement things like AI, machine learning technology? So all of those are what build and make up the next generation flyaway kit, or known as the JCHK.
Awesome. Okay, so follow-on question to that, so of course, hardware is only part of the equation. As threats become more dynamic and adversaries increasingly leverage AI, staying ahead requires advanced analytics, machine learning, and real-time decision support. So I want to shift into how SealingTech is embracing innovation to meet this new threat or this new threat landscape. So the cyber battleground is seeing increased AI-generated malware. How are your platforms evolving to detect and respond in real time?
Sure. Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of different uses of AI, right? Both on the by the bad actors, and then also on the defensive side. So we have to match that as well. So part of our core philosophy right now is just integrating AI into all of our kits. We've been working on a project called OperatorX, and that's really a hunt kit AI assistant that uses LLMs and agentic agents. So we've trained these agents to have specific knowledge of our DCO tools and help us look and use these agents to detect AI malware, to detect living off the land malware. And really a big part of it is how do we, as networks get larger, the amount of log files, the amount of things that an analyst might have to look through is always increasing. So if we can reduce the noise, so to speak, and use AI to help us narrow down exactly what are the most relevant alerts, that is what we're going towards. So it's something that we're actively working on now and building into all of our future kits.
So OperatorX is kind of like, for those of us that have used ChatGPT or any of the other AI tools, that's what the interface with OperatorX is like. And you're, a CPT member, and you've got all this information that's being sucked up by our kits, and you've got to dig through it and figure out what's important. So you can upload reports, you can upload logs of what's been observed into the model, and it's going to digest all that stuff for you. And then you can give it simple, common human language prompts to say, like, does anything look suspicious? Does anything match what was in this Intel support? And then it's going to respond back with what it's seen. Andres had mentioned the agents, and our software development team has been working round the clock developing amazing agents. In the toolkit, you've got various different software tools. It might be Security Onion, it might be your SIEM, so it might be Splunk, it might be Elastic. And these agents are specific parts of the software that are designed to let our large language model, to let OperatorX interface and talk to those other tools in the toolkit. So you might, say, did you see anything unusual? And it might come back and say, this stuff looked unusual. And then you might say, hey, can you go and look at our SIEM records and see if you found this? Or, did you see any communication with the IP addresses in that Intel report saying they might be phoning back home or sending stuff? And then you can go the next level and say, can you write me a firewall rule that would block it? And again, the whole intent behind OperatorX is if you've got some more junior operators, it's going to help them up their game and be like a middle to more senior operator. And if you've got a senior operator, it offloads tasks that they know how to do, but they should really be focusing their subject matter expertise on the harder things and letting OperatorX do that little stuff for them so they can look at the bigger picture and the harder things and just free up cycles so they can focus on other stuff they need to be thinking about in the moment.
Absolutely. And I love the idea of OperatorX. This is a space where I definitely was like, that's a really cool innovation, and it allows the human in the loop, right, to refine and to improve, that tool over time. And I love that concept. So you've talked a little bit about what inspired OperatorX, and you also mentioned it's, comparison to LLMs like ChatGPT. So how does it differ from these other ones? How do we separate this out and say, for those people who are like, well, we could just bump this against a Copilot app like Microsoft Security Copilot or GitHub Copilot? How do we differentiate what OperatorX is bringing to the table from those?
Sure, I can start.
Okay.
A big part of it is it's offline. It's meant to work in air-gapped environments. So our entire kits that we provide are meant to work offline. The other part is we are specifically training these agents really with the subject matter expertise and the knowledge of cybersecurity. So it's really training the Splunk agent on being really, really good at doing Splunk queries, building Splunk, everything for us. Same thing for maybe the Elastic agent or our VMware agent, or really all of the DCO tools that are out there. We have fine-tuned and trained them for the DCO tools. So as Brad said, one way I like to describe it is we want to enable people to interact with their information systems just using natural language. Like, I don't need to know how to build a Splunk query. I should just be able to ask a question like, is this on my network, ? And give it a IOC report from whatever agency I'm receiving that intel report from. So in a lot of ways, it's fine-tuned to the DCO mission and interacts with the tools that our customers, the cyber mission force, they use on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely seems like a game changer to me. So
yeah, we're excited for it.
I do have a question, right? So I was reading some documentation. I was doing a little bit of deep dive, and it says OperatorX uses retrieval augmented generation, also referred to as RAG, to work across uploaded documents. Can you walk us through how a mission analyst might use this feature to pull intelligence or system data?
Sure. So we'll start with just say you have your maintenance manuals. You can upload your maintenance manuals, and it'll quickly index them, and you're then able to ask questions about it. A more relevant use case might be a team is on site somewhere and they receive a threat intelligence report. Say maybe it's from CISA or from the Department of Homeland Security. They receive, here's a 0-day, these are the indicators of compromise. And if you've ever read an intelligence report, it's probably 10, 20, 30 pages long. There's a lot of information there. It takes me a while to read through it and really parse. So what it does is we can upload that file and I can quickly just start asking questions. So instead of me having to read and understand 30 pages of a threat intelligence report, I can feed it to OperatorX or RAG. It indexes it, and now I can ask questions like, tell me about this APT. What ports are associated with this APT? What IP addresses or domains are associated? And I can quickly get that within seconds of uploading it. And then I can actually make pivots from there saying, now I know the IP address, then use natural language. Are these IP addresses, are any of my systems communicating to these IP addresses on a network? So it's combining RAG with actionable like queries into your information.
So how do you see, and I want both of you to take a second because you might have different viewpoints, but how do you see OperatorX evolving in the next 6 to 12 months? Will it support more tool integrations, languages, or defensive playbooks? And one other question, and this is Candice special, thinking about my mission space and kind of what we support, like risk scoring and risk assessments, right? Do you see it playing in any of those fields where it's adding some of that augmentation? What are your thoughts?
So I'll start with this one and say that, you kind of put it in the question, but yes, there will be more agents. Like we've got a list of tools that we want OperatorX to be able to interface with, and, we'll just go down the line marking off of that list. Another area that we're focusing a fair amount of our R&D time is having OperatorX interface talk to the various parts of the kit to collect usage data about what it's doing while it's on mission. The government is right now, like always, very cost conscious, and they'd rather buy a kit for a few $100,000 than $1 million, right? They always want to be cheaper. And one of the things that we get asked is, where can we save money? Where can we be more efficient with how we're deploying our equipment? So we're building it into our kits and through OperatorX and some reporting, where when you're done with a mission, it analyzes everything you did and how much CPU utilization did you have, how much RAM did you use, how much of the terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of disk storage did you really use, because it's work that hasn't really been done a lot to understand what is the amount of kit necessary for each mission. And we're working to help our customers see that so that we can better right size what we're delivering to them and what they're taking out on mission. That's going to be a big one that we continue to focus on, just optimizing what is necessary. And then the final thing I will say is, I think there's a lot of stuff we don't know that we're going to be working on, because when this gets into the hands of our customers and they're using it on missions, they're going to come up with all these creative ideas. It'd be so much better if we could do this, or if it would do this for us. And that's when we swing into action with what made SealingTech. We're going to figure out ways to meet their needs and meet their demands and their wants. And it excites me. You can probably tell it in my voice, but when the customer needs it and we can figure out how to deliver it, like that's why we're here.
Absolutely. What about you? What do you think, Andreas? Next
I
6 to 12 months.
that last part is so uh, it's 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 really relevant. And we are currently building things into OperatorX that 3 to 4 months ago we had no idea we would be building, and it's based off of end user feedback, right? We'll sit down with some Marines and they'll provide us feedback, and then we'll sit down with another group from the Navy and they'll provide us feedback, and we realize this is a great idea, and we quickly build that into the product roadmap. I think as Brad mentioned, the resource utilization, that's really using OperatorX to provide value to the program office, the stakeholders, and then as well as the forward deployed teams. So it's helping out both sides, the forward deployed and the program office. The last part is integrating it more between like the enterprise or the cloud into these field deployed kits. And that ties in with the resource utilization. But how can we have an OperatorX instance at the central like garrison locations that then communicates to the forward deployed field kits? Is there a way to make that architecture all tie together? And that's a big part of what we're working in the future. Have it tied to some central intelligence servers, so like OpenCTI or just different threat intelligence feeds. So more of the edge to enterprise connection.
And then just a curiosity, right? Again, from my mission space, we do vulnerability assessments for space and weapons platforms and things like that all the time. So always interested to see how we take maybe lessons learned from one engagement or from one, field, exercise and applying those across the space. Is there anything like defensive playbooks or things that we should look out for we're collecting lessons learned? You're not going to share anything that's the nitty-gritty details of a particular operation, but anything that we could package up and help other areas to know, defensive monitoring or capabilities like that. What do you guys see any future for that with OperatorX?
We definitely see it connecting to tools and platforms that enable that. So to tools, you mentioned risk scoring before,
Yep.
and we are definitely working with partners where we can easily present that risk scoring information or connecting it to things like the MITRE attack framework.
Yes.
And showing different risk scoring and the attack vector that an adversary might have taken into a network.
Yep.
On the sharing of information, a big area that I'm excited for, and it is part of that 3 to 6 month roadmap, is LLMs are really good at helping us put together writing. And one thing we've seen as a challenge is after action reports, mission reports, executive summaries, executive reports. No one likes to put these things together, has been our experience. But we want to automate a lot of that process for the teams and then aggregate that all together. So one at a localized, so it's putting the mission report or the AAR, and it's populating it automatically for you. And then you might edit some of the areas. But then two, it's aggregating, say, 100 different mission reports and asking questions about that. If I've been on this site for 10 times, I can just feed all my 10 different mission reports to one RAG engine and ask questions like, what are their patterns? Or have I ever seen this in any of my previous 10 engagements on site here? And we think that'll also provide a lot of value to stakeholders at all different parts, at the command level and at the forward deployed level.
Yeah, I love that because, the opportunity for some of, in this other side of the mission space for us to actually be on platform, it is rare and few and far between, but I think we could learn a lot from the engagements where you guys were out in that operational environment. And what are the things that we can bring back and what sources can we connect to say, this is, a potential attack path. This is a potential threat vector, and we're trying to feed that information proactively back to some of our platforms that have some similar landscapes, but we can't take our hunt kits there, right? So I think that's really cool.
And something in the way you phrased your question made me think, and again, this is like customers that have
Yeah.
the ideas or end users that have the idea. If we had, as Andres was just talking about, various levels of after action reports that might have lessons learned, and those are all uploaded into the model. Well, a team, when they get their order, and for those of you who haven't like been on a team and are written the orders, they get kind of standard military 5-paragraph orders that says the purpose of what they're supposed to do and like the time frame and all this stuff. You could potentially upload the order, let it analyze what you've been tasked to do, look through lessons learned, figure out, hey, here's the ones that are the most applicable to your mission. When you start doing mission planning, there could be all things that are done with an order and just a repository of data from all the previous missions to help with mission planning, to increase the chance of success, to increase the effectiveness, to reduce the time to plan and get the mission executed. Like those are all things that could be done with OperatorX.
Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome. Okay, so I do want to shift a little bit into more of the discussion on critical infrastructure. OperatorX addresses the immediate needs of today's cyber defenders, but what about the infrastructure that sustains society at scale? From energy grids to water systems, and cyber physical threat space is evolving rapidly. So I'd want to learn how our solutions help secure critical infrastructure and prepare for emerging threats like quantum computing. So the first question I have for you is, as OT and ICS environments face nation state threats, how do devices like US 10 and JCHK help protect power grids, water systems, transport? Broad question. I don't know who wants to start.
I'll start at the high level and I'll let Andres fill in some of the specifics. But we're working through JCHK. There, the government is asking all of the vendors that are competing to come up with what they call capability packages. There's 4 different areas in these capability packages, and one of them was OT. We've already delivered, the concept of how we would use existing hardware and potential future hardware to tackle this problem. And at the base level, we've worked to integrate our kit with various OT focused companies to make sure that we can use what they've already developed in that space to interface between that OT network, our kit, and an IT network for analysis and action and reporting. The US 10 is one of the microservers that we have out, and that particular device is small and inexpensive and is easy to put in that boundary, that interface between the IT network and the OT network, to collect that information and then feed it back to our kits. So we've really positioned ourselves well to be able to do missions, to do analysis in the OT space, which, whether it's the government or private sector, I think over the last 5 to 10 years, all companies have been realizing, oh, this is a space we haven't protected as well, and we need solutions for it.
Yep. And I'll add to that. We've seen such an increase in cyber attacks to OT and ICS environments as a whole. We've seen CISA, DHS. They've published numerous advisories to really the owners of these OT and ICS equipment, and this is the core of what makes our society function. Right? Power plants, food production plants, water treatment facilities. There's been known cyber attacks against water treatment facilities. So there's this huge demand and realization that we need to protect our OT equipment, and we typically haven't in the past. The way it was designed, some of the equipment that is used is just legacy equipment. So it's an area that we're building new products around. As Brad mentioned, our US 10, it's small, it's portable, it fits in your hand. One of our customers told us, hey, I want to put a small sensor at every single OT equipment in my facility, where normally you would just put a sensor, say, at the gateway or at your switch level. Now you might be able to put a sensor behind a power distribution, behind a water treatment, or a PLC that is controlling the temperature of a food storage facility. And that PLC is just in charge of regulating temperature for potato storage, right? an attacker could attack that, and now suddenly, thousands and thousands of potatoes go bad, impacting our food supply. So it's how do we build these rugged, small systems that we can put further down at the edge, closer to the OT equipment, and protect them against malicious attacks.
And to pull on that thread just a little bit, I think, alluding to one of the example you just gave with putting the sensors closer, right? How do our solutions support long-term resilience? So for patching or hardening themselves autonomously, right? So knowing that there's an issue and kind of correcting that issue in an autonomous manner. Do we have any examples there?
I think that's working with the software partners that we have, and then it's based on the deployment mechanism that we use. Different like out-of-band or in-band management features where we can autonomously roll updates or in-place upgrades to the software that are out in the field. It really depends on the site-specific deployment on how we might implement that. And then also which software vendor or software partner we would integrate with. There's like 3 or 4, leading OT ICS partners, and working with them, we're able to create deployment mechanisms to roll out those updates and build resilience, as well as just building resilience into the hardware, making sure it can support high temperatures if it's at a power treatment facility. We build resiliency into the hardware and then partner with software vendors.
All right, so a little bit of a shift. I love to talk about global impact and future vision as it relates to some of these things that we've just discussed, but just overall. So SealingTech's impact is expanding well beyond U.S. operations. With growing interest from allied nations and international partners, your solutions are helping shape global standards. So as an example, DIU and US Cybercom have indicated interest from allied nations, UK, Australia. What's your approach to coalition deployments?
I'll start off by saying that I don't think our approach changes based off who the customer is, but I think what we're going to find is, we've got some demo units in the hands of some foreign partners right now. We will learn that some of their needs and requirements are a little different than maybe how the U.S. military deploys it, and how our more local customers do. And just like any other of our customers, we'll work to help them meet the needs that they have, help them fix the little problems that they have, and just our mantra of help the customer fix their issues and problems. We'll keep doing that, and they'll find success with our products and want to use them and buy more.
I'll reiterate there. I don't
Go
think
ahead.
our approach changes too much. It's the same, understand their needs, their pain points, and then rapidly work to provide solutions for them. I think it's similar, and a big interest that the foreign partners have is to engage and increase their interoperability, so that when a foreign partner is sitting side by side with a U.S. soldier, they've trained on similar gear, they've used similar resources, and they can work together on that joint force mission or on that mission partner network. So I don't think our approach changes too much. It's just finding the small little differences and then working to develop that and provide them a solution.
So same great service across the board at that point, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, and then the final question, right? Looking ahead to the next 12 to 18 months, what new capabilities or products from SealingTech excite you the most, and why? And we're going to start with you, Brad, and then we'll go to Andres.
Got it. So I would say number one, we've talked about it a lot already, would be OperatorX. We're looking to launch that in September as an official product. We've been developing it for a while. We've been doing demos. It's not that people don't know it's coming, but it'll be really nice to get it in people's hands and get it, being used. We talked about the US 10. We've got the MS 100, which is a more capable product in our microserver line. That's coming out in October. And to me, at least for this year, I would say those are the two big ones that I think are really going to push us into new spaces where we haven't operated yet, and just grow our capabilities and, give our customers even, more tools in their toolkit.
Awesome. All right, Andres.
Sure. For me, it's also OperatorX. It's something we're all really excited about. We see a lot of value and benefit. Like we've heard a lot of the challenges that our customers, both on the program office have and on the forward deployed have, just the challenges. And we really think it'll solve a lot of those challenges for them. So we're excited to provide that capability to them. Along with that is just continuing to build new AI solutions. So it's refreshing our GPU AI-enabled servers to, really have the capacity as new models are developed 6 months from now or 12 months from now. We want to make sure that our technology can support those models to go into the field. It has all of the compute resources that we need to go into the field. And really, I mean, for me, I love technology. Just as technology continues to evolve, I'm excited to see, real soon we'll be building a server that has over 2 petabytes of storage, and like I'll be able to carry on with me on a plane a server with over 2 petabytes. So I'm excited to when we roll that out as well, and anything that we develop for our foreign partners. So it's always rewarding when you're at an international conference and different partners from different countries, they come up to you and they say, "Oh, we've heard of SealingTech. We really want one of your cyber flyaway kits." So we'll see what we can develop for them.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I want to share with the audience here, right? We will drop links to, all of the publicly available information about these technologies and these capabilities that are coming out of the SealingTech family. There's so much happening in this space, and we didn't get a chance to talk about all of everything that's happening in, the hour session, but I know there's a lot of interest. So we'll make sure that we drop links into the YouTube description so that people can go off and read and ask more questions. And I love when audience engages and asks questions, and I will, definitely forward any questions that the audience has to the experts here to weigh in and kind of give answers back. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time for this very powerful conversation. It's clear that SealingTech isn't just building tech, they're shaping the future of cyber defense, one kit or one microserver or one AI assistant at a time. So to our listeners, if today's episode sparked your curiosity, good. That means you're paying attention to the future of mission-driven innovation. If you want to work on groundbreaking systems like the Joint Cyber Hunt Kit or OperatorX, explore careers at Parsons by visiting parsons.com careers. Again, I will drop the links to a lot of the things that we've discussed here for any information that's publicly available. And if you want to go deeper into edge-ready gear and AI capabilities that we've talked about, then you can head to SealingTech.com to learn more. Until next time, stay sharp, stay mission ready, and keep imagining next. Thanks, everyone.